Hey, welcome back to a Christmas Eve edition of Simple Truth. You probably think that I am going to talk about the Christmas story, and that just is not true. I'm going to talk about the Christmas story Joseph style. Joseph is thought to be a Christ-like character in the Old Testament, so it actually does go together, right? One of the differences in the Joseph story is his dad survived and not his mom. Right? In the Christmas story, Mary survived, and Joseph we never hear again from, except for when he's looking for him at age 12. But when we look at the story of Joseph, we just got done in chapter 43 with verse 1. Let me go on from here and see if by some act of God I can weave Christmas Eve into it. You tell me at the end whether or not we actually got there. Here's the verses. All right, it says this, and when they had eaten the grain that they had brought from Egypt, their father said to him, go again, buy a little food. I can tie this in really quickly. You ready? The reason that Joseph and Mary were in Bethlehem is because there was a census, and the government, right, the needs of the time moved Mary and Joseph exactly to where God needed them to be. Isn't that funny? There's a famine, and they ran out of food, and so God moved Jacob and his family exactly to where they needed to be, to fulfill his promises. You see, Mary and Joseph needed to be in Bethlehem. There was a prophecy that said they would be in Bethlehem. Do you know that Mary and Joseph, now I'm going to get stuck. Do you know that Mary and Joseph had a divine, predestined appointment to be in a place? It had been foretold that they would be in Bethlehem, right? That they would be in Bethlehem. And God had to figure out how to move them from A to B. Because he didn't say, hey, Mary and Joseph, in 9 months, you got to go to Bethlehem and you got to have the baby there. That's kind of important. Fulfill it. All these things. No, God motivated them to get to Bethlehem. Do you know that God didn't say to Jacob, hey, you guys got to move down to Egypt, right? Because, we got to fulfill this prophecy that I gave to Abraham. And, I told him you're going to be there 400 years. No, God motivated them to get to where he needed them to be. Let me be convictional in nature. It's doubtful God's going to tell you where he needs you to be. Sometimes he's just going to motivate you to get there, right? And so sometimes you're going along in life and all of a sudden you wake up one day and go like, oh, holy cow, how did I get here? Right? Do you know, I was talking with somebody today. They were telling me about, their pathway to get to a church. And we were just thinking like how weird it was and how unlikely it was that this person would be at this church. And you look at the path and you say, God motivated me to go here, 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 and here. And how did that happen? And when you listen to the story, you're like, this is crazy, right? It is straight out of Hallmark. It's straight out of like Crazier Than Life, how somebody got from point A to point B, right? And yet God did that. And he did that through moments of famine. He did that through moments of plenty, right? He motivates people to be where they need to be to fulfill his purpose, his plan. He did that for Mary and Joseph. He's going to do that for you. Your deal is like Mary. You have to be obedient, right? Like Mary, you have to say, let it be, right? Or like Joseph, when you find yourself in a place you don't want to be, you still have to be obedient and you still have to be faithful. Sometimes God motivates us out of free will. Andy, just choose to do the right thing. Be where I need you to be, right? Sometimes God says, Andy, you're not going to choose to do the right thing. So your car is going to break down exactly here at exactly this moment so you can be exactly where I need you to be because you're not smart enough to actually listen to me and be there. Right? That's the deal. Now, that might just be me, and it might not be you, right? But sometimes we're just not smart enough to be where God wants us to be, so he helps us out a little bit. You know this, right? I wish that those of you who are listening, I wish you'd write down an example, right? Down in the comment section of, well, man, one time I ended up here, and I can't believe what God did with the whole thing, right? Yeah, yep, God motivated you to be exactly where he needed you to be. Right, but Judah, verse 3, but Judah said to him, the man solemnly warned us, saying, now, let me tell you how funny this is. Judah's talking about his brother. Judah's talking about the brother that they sold into slavery. So actually at this moment, Judah's talking about Jacob's son. That man is Jacob's son. And we get a chance to see, you know that when you're watching those movies and you can just kind of forecast ahead of time how it's going to go, and you go like, oh, these two are going to hook up. Yep, this is all about this. I was watching a Hallmark movie the other night with my family, and at the end of it, Timothy and I were joking around because we always kind of like know how it's going to end. But at the end of it, we were like, oh, this older lady, she's like 80. She kept talking throughout the whole thing about the love of her life that got away, and she married another guy who was just as great. But you know, and you knew throughout the whole movie that at the end of the movie, they were going to bring that older guy back into meet. It was going to be this reunion, this great. And the very last scene of the movie is that. Right? He comes walking in the door as a Christmas present. Like, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. You're looking at the story, and sometimes you can just forecast what God's doing here. God is going to bring forth a reunion. But isn't it funny that the brothers and the dad are talking about Joseph? They just don't know it. You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless the brother is with you. Israel said, why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother? They replied, the man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? What we told him was an answer to those questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, bring your brother down? Well, yeah, you could have. Yep, you could have if you were in tune with God. Right? But instead, you looked at a situation with a guy who doesn't know you don't think, from anybody, and he asks you specifically about your father, and you're specifically about your brother. Do you know that sometimes God tunes us into what he's doing, and we don't pay attention? Sometimes God says, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a little clue. This is what's happening. Knock, 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 knock. This is what you should be doing. And if you're me, you go, no, thank you, or you're oblivious, right, to the fact. But there are times where God tells us, like, hey, see this person right here? This person's going to be important in your life. This person you're going to do life with, and like this is an important moment. And yet we go back, right, after we've already gone forward, and we go like, hey, yeah, way back here, and they, yeah, way back here, God told you this was going to be an important person in your life, and you didn't get it, right? So these brothers, they could have gotten it. But notice this whole thing. Notice how Joseph is weaving this whole thing, right? But who's Joseph working for? Well, Pharaoh. But who's Joseph working with? God. You see, God loves these brothers so much that he is trying to get them forgiveness. He loves these brothers so much that he's trying to get them to a good place about what they did to his brother. How crazy is that? Why didn't God just strike them all down? Right? Why didn't God just do something about this whole thing, right? Why doesn't God say, hey, we've had enough of this whole thing, right? We like what you guys did, cross the line, you all need to pay for it. But instead, God cares about their restoration. God cares about reconciliation. And God cares about them getting in tune again with their brother, right? And so he sets up this whole thing, right? He allows this to happen, and the brothers, like, they don't want to go back down without the brother, right? And they ask their father, and their father is insanely upset about this whole thing, because what they've done is caused him to have to now face the fact that he might lose another son. Again, Jacob's not looking to God for this whole thing as well. Jacob's not going, hey, God, are you in this? Or what's this about? He's just thinking about him and his safety, his protection, saying, I don't want to lose another son. Right? Maybe this is exactly where you are, right? Maybe God's trying to work, he's trying to move, and you're just trying to protect you. Trying to say, Lord, if this isn't the way it's going to work out, right? If this doesn't work out, I need an escape plan. I need something that I can fall back on. I need something. Do you know the hardest type of ministry in life with God is when there's no fallback plan? When you just step out and you say, God, I really believe that this is what you're saying. I really believe that this is what you have for me. I really believe that this is what you want. And I'm not going to come up with a safety plan. Right? I'm not going to come up with another idea. So Jacob is faced with this choice: feed his family, let his son go down, or not feed his family and keep his son safe and protect him. I'm betting that there's times where you've been in that same place. You're faced with the choice of doing what God has called you to do, or protecting people that you love, protecting the people that you think you need to protect, not realizing that God has us all part of the plan. Let me make this clear. There are times where we need to protect. And unless God tells you specifically to do something, you should protect those that you love. You should protect the things that God has given you, right? You need to be careful, because we have an enemy who's constantly out to destroy, to steal, to kill, right? That is what he does. And somehow we think the Bible's joking about that. No, the enemy devours, the enemy kills, steals, and destroys, right? He wants to steal your joy. He wants to kill your purpose, your passion, who you are, right? He wants to devour you. And so he's looking always to do that. We need to be in tune with God, right? This is a chance where, again, the enemy could have devoured Jacob, his whole family. He could lose all of his sons in this whole deal. But he needs to trust God. Let me finish this up. It says this: "And Judah said to Israel's father, send the boy with me, and I will arise and go, and that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we would have returned twice." Right? So Judah does that which they should have done from the very beginning with Joseph. What a redemption moment here. And Judah takes responsibility for the moment, takes responsibility for his brother, says, hey, let this happen. I'll take responsibility. I will protect him. I will keep him safe. They should have done that for Joseph, and they didn't. Right? So let me finish up with this. God is so cool that he gives redos. He gives redos to the worstest of moments, right? He gives redos to the worstest of people, because to God, there is no worstest of people, right? To God, there is no worstest of moments. God's not up in heaven with some checklist going, this and this and this is this. No, all sin does the same, right? God's up and he sees one thing, that he loves you. If he gave a bunch of brothers who sold their brother into slavery a second chance, he will most definitely give you and I and everyone else who's worster than we are a second chance, right? Cling to the God of second chances this Christmas Eve. No matter where you are, no matter what you are doing, give someone the greatest Christmas gift ever, right? Give them a redo. Give them a chance. Forgive them, move forward, and give them a chance to be who God has created them to be. I'm not talking about marriage things. I'm not talking about relationship stuff. I'm talking about giving people a second chance to be who God created them to be. Hey, we'll see you next time on a New Year's edition of Simple Truth.